Welcome to the Ace map. It's going to be Fighting Spirit Heart of the Storm Edition, spawning in the top right-hand position. The Blue Zerg from Evil Geniuses Team Liquid. It is Lee Jae Dong.
His opponent spawning as the red Protoss on the bottom left side. His name is Kim Dae-yup, also known as Stats, playing for KT Roaster.
Indeed, so Flash, of course, you clearly see he is not being sent out for the Ace map here, and I think one of the main reasons for that is he's simply not been doing so good recently. And looks like Stats, he is going to open up with a Forge expand here, not going for the Gateway expand, which is something that you know, maybe Jae Dong will indeed try to go for that gold mineral base if he's going to go for this build over the gateway in the main base.
Oh yeah, that's a high possibility. Like I said, if you get the earlier tech out, it's easier to take out the gold base. You scout it much earlier than you expect. So, you know, we'll see what Jae Dong has to offer in this matchup.
You know, look at Jae Dong's eyes, man. It looks like he's looking pretty serious there, man.
He's bringing out the inner Dong.
The inner Dong, the death stare. Looks like he's very focused and he wants to win.
He pretty much lost it when he taught Killer how to use the death stare, and then he started losing it when he moved to Team A, but now he's slowly getting it back.
I think it's the intense training regimen under Coach Park that's really helping him out here. And it looks like Jae Dong going to opt for the hatchery first. He is really a big fan of the hatch first against Protoss, I've seen.
Yeah, and it's going to work out great for him because his opponent went for the Forge Fast Expand instead of the Gateway first. The players are crossed diagonally positioned, so he's not going to scout it any time. In fact, he's going to go for the 16 Nexus, and now he's going to put down the Forge.
And he has Stats opting to not scout, to scout before he goes ahead and gets up his Forge there. And going to scout now after putting down that Forge. Jae Dong getting a spawning pool up as well. And as long as he's you know, a little bit careful, he should be perfectly fine and not have to worry about any type of cannon rush from Stats. I don't think he'll go for that, but it's always a possibility against a Zerg player if you get that early Forge, and the Zerg player goes for that hatch first.
Jae Dong's scouting in a diagonal position because, you know, he scouted the bottom right base. The Overlord is going in the left top direction, so the last position is the left bottom base. The drone coming in, trying to deny the gateway, but his opponent went for the cannon first.
Go ahead and got that cannon up. He's also going to scout into the main base. Oh, if Jae Dong's smart, he may be able to take that rich vest.
Yes.
You guys are... Oh, he ends up getting it, though.
This is so crucial on a map like this because there's only one geyser inside the main base.
That's actually really annoying for Stats, and...
This throws Stats' build pretty much out of the window.
I don't know if he can throw out the window, but the windows may have been shattered at this point, man. Stats, of course, forced to take the double gas there now at the natural. It's not a huge, it's not really the biggest deal in the world for him, but it's a bit unfortunate that he lost the rich Vespene gas in his main base. He's going to have to, you know, wait for a Zealot to build out of that gateway, so, you know, really just wasting 100 mils as fast as possible in order to take that out.
This is also going to affect Stats because he's going to have 3 more probes inside the geyser instead of mining for the minerals. He already spent 75 minerals into building the second incinerator.
Look at this, though.
And Jae Dong taking the middle base.
He is taking the middle base. Yes, once again, I guess he feels very confident because Stats, he doesn't have that additional gas, so he can't really rely as much on the gas-intensive units, such as the Phoenix, which was what was the unit that pretty much undid him.
And the Immortals.
And the Immortals as well. Now, the real question is, will Stats scout for that middle base once again? I'm pretty sure that he knows that Jae Dong tried to go for a build like this on this map, but will he identify it in time? Will he be able to punish it? That's the real question.
Jae Dong needs to fake it like this is going to be a 2-base hatchery because Stats scouted the 12 o'clock position. He's going to scout the 3 o'clock position. So if Stats actually is, if Stats thinks about the 2-base hatchery, 2-base tech before the gold-base mineral, and then he needs to snipe the probe, but Stats, it seems like he has some idea. The Zerglings are running around the map, and he needs to take down the probe as soon as possible.
I think that probe, though, it will eventually scout that golden base there, and it's getting pretty close, moving in there. Yes, he is going to go ahead and scout that out. Jae Dong's base is revealed, just barely there, and Stats, it's going to be up to him to properly respond to this. Now, Jae Dong, he did deal with this well, I guess, deal against the Protoss on this map when he went for this specific opening here. So hopefully he has learned the mistakes from his last game, and he'll be able to properly utilize this gold base this time around.
Yeah, but it's still hard for Zerg players to hold the base because the base is actually between the two small chokes, and the force fields are so great in the middle of the map. Jaydong has to force a fight somewhere else on the map, somewhere more open when Stats decides to push out.
Now also, if you look at the map, it's going to be pretty hard for the Zerg player to get a good scout off with this Overlord, and there is another one going to the main base, so he will be able to spot that Phoenix. Look at this, though. Phoenix on the way, +1 attack. The Robo going down. 3 gateways on the way as well. So Stats just, focusing on going into that strong, solid mid-game tech choice here. And the Phoenix is out. It is revealed, so Jaydong, he will be well aware of that. He's getting a Hydralisk Den right now, so the Phoenix, they're not going to really be able to do too much once those Hydras are out on the field.
And Hydras are also perfect choice for this because, yes, like you said, the Hydras can take down the Phoenixes, but also if Stats decides to make... Okay, he's making an Observer, so this is not going to work out. A little towards what Jaydong's favor, but some players decide to go for the Immortal All-in push, and the Hydras deal so much DPS against the Immortal, so the Hydras are so great, a great composition to go for. Now, it's more of Jaydong trying to balance between the Roaches and the Hydras. How many Hydras do I make? How many Roaches do I make? And that really depends on what he scouts and what Stats has. How many Immortals does he have? How many Colossus does he have?
I think we're going to be seeing a build that we saw recently in Pro League. Basically, the Protoss player against the Zerg, he goes for, a few Phoenixes opening. He gets some Immortals, and then he gets 2 Colossi, and then he moves out on the map and goes for a humongous 2-base push here. But we do have the armor upgrade being researched for Stats here, so I'm not entirely sure if he plans on doing that. We do have a bit of a run-by here with the 3 Zealots coming in. The Phoenix may come in here and try to help support, maybe snipe off a few of those Hydras as well.
The +1 armor is the fact that Stats, he's gonna push out he's gonna push out when the +1 armor is done. Now, what he's trying to do is end the game on 2 bases. He's not getting a Twilight Council, which means that there's not gonna be any +2 upgrades for our Protoss player Stats. So he's gonna get +1 armor, get the Colossus out, and go for the push. Or he might even try to take a 3rd base since he has some units over there.
Yep, he is sending a probe over there, so it does look like he plans on taking a 3rd Nexus there. But we have 2 more gateways on the way from our Protoss player. I'm still very wary if he's going to indeed go for that 3rd base or not. Spire Tech on the way for Jaydong here.
Time is ticking for Stats.
The time does feel like it's ticking for Stats. Jaydong, he's got a pretty impressive force of Hydralisk here. He also has some Roaches to help out as well. The creep is going to spread very close to Stats base now. Stats, he has a lot of gateways on the way here. I really feel like he's going to be going for that 2-base timing.
Once the Mutas come out, the attack is not going to work out at all. I mean, he has to...
Good force fields there, snapping off 3 of those Hydras. No problem there. He did use 5 force fields to deal with that. And look at this, the proxy pylon is scouted by Jaydong there, so he will be able to deal with that. A Warpin reinforcement Zealot is coming, but it's already kind of low on health. Phoenix is trying to do a little bit more harassment here, getting a good amount of, efficiency out of those Phoenix. 8 kills already on the drones.
He has tons of, Stats does have tons of minerals, and he's not making that many Stalkers, so I expect him to take a 3rd base pretty soon. In fact, he does so right now.
There we go. I think Stats realizes that
it's not going to work.
It's not going to work, man. It's just not going to work.
And he's getting a Void Ray, but the Spire does finish for Jaydong. So if Jaydong actually decides to go for the Muta, once he deals with these 4 Phoenixes, then the Mutas are going to do such a massive amount of damage inside Stats' base. But it really depends on what Jaydong wants to do. Does he want to go for the Corruptors against the Colossus and possible Void Rays, or does he want to harass around with the Mutas?
That is the real question here. We have the Roaches trying to move in there, but they can't kill off the Phoenixes. And this Colossus force is, it's not a lot, but the problem is for Jaydong that the choke points can be really easily abused here. But now this Grand Army is looking quite terrifying here. That there are 3 Colossus, and there is a Void Ray in this army. No Stalkers whatsoever, though.
Yeah, it seems like he doesn't want to waste any money into Stalkers, and his opponent is getting up to 6 Corruptors to deal against the Void Rays. That's great, and without the additional help from the Stalkers, the The Corruptors can take out the Colossus really easily. They might even go for the Void Race first and then the Colossus. Look at this, Jadon getting into position at the third base.
The Nexus just finished as well, but I think that Stats' units will not be there in time. Jadon's going to snipe down that third base, no problem, and then just get out of there, losing absolutely nothing, killing off that third base. Stats probably not feeling comfortable at all about this. He has a decent-sized army, but Jadon, he's getting his fourth base. He has the Corruptors now. He's almost maxed out. I think he's going to go for an attack very soon here.
The gold base economy kicking into the game now.
That's right. That gold base, man.
I mean, Stats, if he decides to go for the third base, he needed to harass around the map because Jadon taking the gold base means that he's going to have so much economy. And look at this. He's going to try to engage his army.
Oh, look at that. Such a good bait there from Jadon. Almost getting ready to engage there, but he just wants to try the force stats. Look at this, though. The Colossus, it's completely out in the open. And now Jadon is going to focus down and get the +2, doing such a good job at constantly hitting stats where he doesn't have any units. Almost like he's a Terran player dropping on the Protoss economy. And now those Roaches, they're going to focus down and try the kill off that third base. And we could have a huge engagement here. Is Jadon going to go for the attack? It looks like he's moving in there. Decent force fields go down, but that Corruptor count is very high there. Then the Void Rays, they are going to be able to do a good amount of damage. That third base will survive, but the Corruptor count is very high right now. Jadon's still very high and ahead in supply. 16 Hydralisks in production right now, and once they are added to this Zerg army, I feel like things are going to be very, very hard for Stats to work with.
Behind us, it's not like Jadon is going to commit to this completely. He's taking a fourth base. He can get the drones over there, no problem. And look at this, Corruptors trying to snipe some of the Phoenix and the Void Race before they get too high in the count. And the Roaches at the third base trying to deal extra damage.
I feel like Jadon may be spreading his forces a little bit too thin here. He's let Stats getting a very good amount of efficiency here. I think he actually thought that he'd be able to snipe off the third base, but it does survive for now.
Well, what he tried to do is he was sitting so high on the minerals and the gases that he tried to trace some army away while taking out the Colossus and possibly the Void Rays of his opponent's stats, and now he's going to be able to remax out pretty soon.
Stalker's a little bit out of position here, but Jadon, he has to deal with the Void Ray and the Colossus. The DPS in this army is getting pretty ridiculous here. Jadon with a huge miss micro there, and all of a sudden, this game could easily turn around.
Where are the Roaches? Those are Colossus, so making the Hydras is the biggest mistake. You need the Roaches out. You need the Corruptors to deal against the Rulers, and here we go. Another engagement by Jadon.
Jadon getting a good surround here, but will it be enough? The Corruptor count, it's almost nil. There are still a lot of Void Rays out on the map, and the Zerg army, it's completely crumbling to the combined might of this Protoss Armada. Those units are weak on health, but they still can deal a very good punch to the Zerg army. Jadon, he needs to buy more time in order to deal with this Protoss army.
It seems like he wants to go for the Colossus. Yes, he takes one down, but the problem are the Void Rays, and he doesn't have enough Corruptors. He has 20 Roaches, 1 Corruptor, 3 Queens, and there might be a point in time where he has to give up the middle base and just pull all the drones to the 3 o'clock position. But Jadon seems like he wants to go for the third base, try to deny it again, force Stats to go for one final counter all-in.
That was a very, very scary position for Jadon there. He's going to move in now, try to take out that fourth base if possible. The Roaches are targeting it down. The army for Stats, it's too far away. And look at this, the Nexus, it's going to go down, putting Stats back on that 2-base economy. That's got to be so frustrating for him. You know, he just won a big battle very closely, and now all of a sudden back to that 2-base economy.
This kind of forces Stats to be in that position where, do I double expand or do I go for one final push? He is making a Nexus, so he's looking at the game a little bit longer, but he also needs to get a third base because his main base is almost mined out.
Yeah, that main base is not going to help him out that much longer here. Of course, same for Jadon, but if we look at the supplies here, Jadon is pretty far ahead. He's got a very nice Roach Hydra army here. He has some creepers and killing off a creep tumor there. Almost thought he accidentally sniped down one of his stalkers, but that was not the case.
Now Jadon needs to wait until the extra Corruptors come out, because with his main army I only saw up to 4 or 5 Corruptors. We have a total of 9 Corruptors out on the field, but he needs to get everything, and it seems like he wants to go for a surround from the left side.
Oh, if he can get that surround off, that'll be absolutely huge. More Roaches going for the third base. Once again, I think Jadon plans on just, forcing his opponent to constantly back up, defend. And now, are we going to have a big engagement here? Those Corruptors are naked. There's no units around them. All right, looks like we have a big engagement going on here. Good force fields, excellent force fields, actually. The Void Ray count is at 3 still, though. And the Roaches, are they going to be able to get the Nexus down for the 3rd time? Yes, they do indeed get down that Nexus for the 3rd time. And now Jaedong, he's almost maxed out. The Protoss army, it is just in a very terrible position now. I think Stats is just going to be forced to go for it.
He has to go for it. There's no way that Stats can come back into the game at this point. Going for the 4th Nexus is not the right time, but Jaedong just buying so much time by these small engagements here and there. Now Stats is doing a really nice job killing these drones at the 3 o'clock position, but the main problem is the main army versus the main army.
All right, here we go. Looks like this could be the final engagement of the night here. The Corruptors, they're focusing down those Void Rays, but the Void Rays do a humongous amount of damage. The Zerg army absolutely melting here to this Protoss army, and Jaedong, it looks like he may have mismanaged that fight there. He's going to have to get out of there. He's got to give out the 3rd base. Look at that, though. The expansion for Jaedong to the right. It's been completely taken out. Will Stats be able to turn this around and make this a win for KT Rolster?
He got stuck on the Hydra Roach Corruptor composition for such a long time. He didn't get any Infestors out or Vipers out. That's, he has such a great economy, harass his opponent constantly, but he never teched out of that composition.
Staying that composition potentially for a little bit too long. Also, not seeing too many double-pronged attacks on the main army, trying to do a pincer or something like that. And, essentially the force fields were just cutting off so much of Jaedong's army, and he wasn't able to deal with it. All right, here we go. This is looking like it's going to be the last battle, but there are just not enough Zerg units here, I feel. Jaedong forced the retreat once again, now moving back, losing even more units. The supplies now heavily favoring the Protoss player Stats. It looks like KT Rolster will be able to break their losing streak and will continue an undefeated score against EGTL.
Yeah, the problem is that he couldn't take out the Void Rays, he couldn't take out the high gas army, and now all Stats had to do is replenish with the Gateway army. GG.
Jaedong was looking so good throughout so much of that game there, but in the end, the tenacity of Stats allowed him to just, eventually go through and win the game. Jaedong was really sticking on that Roach Hydra Corruptor army. His engagements were not the greatest, unfortunately, throughout a lot of that game. I love that he was going for the 3rd and sniping that, but beyond that, I felt like things weren't working out well.
Oh yeah, and he couldn't get the Colossus. He couldn't get the Void Rays. The two biggest composition for the Protoss players, and Zerg players, they need to slowly dwindle on the Colossus and the Void Ray count. If not, then there's going to be too much units